The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. Today is Saturday, November 23rd, and we are going to be reviewing a 10-game slate, 9-game main slate, and an early game. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the one and only shark in the DFS waters, and that is Mr. Michael Apotria. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic, Coach, and we talked about it just before we jumped on. And this is we're recording this in the morning, so we
Yeah.
generally record the night before, but we're recording this one in the morning. And I think people are, we're going to get to our sponsor, but you already know what that means. It's in my cup. I'm fired up. I got the Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee running through my veins this morning. I already wrote up my morning article, for our layup line over there, highlighting some DFS plays. I'm ready to go, Coach. I'm fired up for this slate.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's sort of cool doing the show the day of because it allows a little bit of news to break. It allows you to soak in sort of what the games were the night before because the Friday night slate was a pretty heavy slate too, and we have a handful of teams on back to backs. So all of that will come into play, but yeah, I want to thank, obviously, our presenting title sponsor, Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. I am also enjoying a cup of the French roast Hawaiian Isles right now. So get on to Amazon or hit them up online and support our sponsors. We would appreciate that. So what we're going to do is we never miss a game. Like we said, we promised you in the preseason, we didn't miss a single preseason game. We're not going to miss a single regular season game or playoff game. So that was our goal at the beginning, is to be successful for you guys and be here for every game. So the first game we'll talk about is going to really a standalone game if you want to play the captain spot and play that one. And then the other, let's see, 6, 8, 9 games, is it right? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. That 9 games will be on the main slate. So, all right. So let's open right up with that solo early game. It's a 5 p.m. Eastern game, and it is the Phoenix Suns and the Minnesota Timberwolves. You want to jump into that one, Michael?
Yeah, sure. So I think this one is, one that we're going to be waiting a little bit on with news. Covington has already been rolled out. Layman's already been rolled out
Mm-hmm.
for Minnesota, but Kogie's right now being considered a game time call, and I think that's going to impact the slate. And I think also who's going to be in the starting lineup is going to impact the slate because in the
Right.
past we've seen Travion Graham kind of slide over to the floor a little bit, and he could play there, but they're going to be probably playing with a little bit more size in Phoenix. We've seen them run the Kaminsky Saric, so I wouldn't be shocked if we see a combination or of Noah Vonleh or Jordan Bell getting a few more extra minutes, or whether one of them starts. I think that's where I'm going to have some interest for some of the value. But Karl
Yeah.
Anthony Towns is just clear cut guy. You have to play him. It's up to you if you want to use him in your captain spot. I think when it comes down to it, he has the highest upside, also the highest floor in this game. So it's the obvious play for the captain spot. And I think we're going to have enough value given those two guys. If one of them ends up starting, if one of them doesn't start, then Travion Grant's for some value, and value on the other side that we'll get to. And I also think Teague. He's just been playing very well. He's a guy that I think we can go back to. Ricky Rubio right now is looking like he's more on the doubtful side, so you don't have to worry about that direct matchup right there.
Right. Yeah.
So I think those are going to be my main options. If you want to play Wiggins, I'm not going to knock you. His price tag is, it's elevated. But he was on a torrent run before he started missing games, due to the death in the family and an illness and
Right.
everything else. So I'm not going to knock you. I just don't like playing him. So I'm going to just wait for him to start beating me for a game or two before I really want to reconsider it. But until then, I'll pass on him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't blame you, but I've got to say it's bizarre because I was with you in the Wiggins camp. I used to just crush him, totally points dependent, etc. But I'll tell you, man, he had proved me wrong for about a 5 or 6 game stretch in a row. I mean, hitting big shots, going to the glass, even playing a little defense. I was stunned. So, whatever flipped the switch there, if it was all the criticism that he was taking or what the deal was, he really has been playing good ball up until having to sit out. But again, like you mentioned, he wasn't sitting out because of an injury or illness. It was a personal issue with the death in the family. So I expect him to jump back on the horse here and ride full steam. So, being the fact that it's a good pace up game, the fourth and ninth pace teams, it's going to be up and down. He steps into a lot of threes and knifes to the hoop. And, I love focusing for me on both Wiggins and Cat in those top two spots. And I know they're expensive. And then just trying to fill in the rest for that single game uh, group. Now, we need to get official news on Rubio, but I heard like you that he's probably not going to play. And it seemed like last game we got sort of a mixture of people filling in that spot. Akobo played some, Javale Carter played some. It looked like Booker had slid over and played a little bit. How do you think it affects the Phoenix side, Mike? And who do you have a guy or two of value to recommend? If people are going to go with the more expensive options on Minnesota.
I think it's the direct correlation. It went mostly to Tyler Johnson. He ended up starting the
Mm-hmm.
game, which I thought it was going to be Carter starting, and Tyler Johnson in his general like bench role. He usually thrives in a bench role, but he played 29 minutes in it, and he didn't blow up on the stat sheet, but he played well. Only six
Yeah.
points, but the 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals. That's a full stat line. Shot 2 of 7, so he didn't get a lot of shots off. Like you said, it's an up-paced game, so I'd expect a few more shot attempts from him if he's coming out starting again. And
Mm-hmm.
law of averages, we can assume that maybe he shoots a little better than 28% from the field. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be my main focus. But before I just jump right into Phoenix, I wanted to get that out there because you asked the question. One more thing I wanted to talk about with Wiggins, which is kind of making my decision to fade him a little bit easier, is
Yeah.
that a lot of the good run he was getting was when Jeff Teague was out or playing on
True.
limited minutes coming back. So Jeff Teague, first game back was on the 13th, and that was, Wiggins still had a big game. Jeff Teague didn't play a full complement of minutes. Following game, he played before missing him. He put up 34 and a half DK points. So I'm not saying he's necessarily going to revert right back
Good
to
point.
regular old Wiggins, but it wouldn't shock me if we kind of see him play off ball a little bit more, obviously, with Jeff Teague playing back. Those assist totals were actually, on the rise when he was playing point guard a little bit for him.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that could have been the exact correlation of when he went out to when Wiggins started going. I know we've referred to that on the show a few times. So it's definitely something that raises a little bit of a flag. But yeah, excuse me. And on the Phoenix side, the question is, do you spend up for Booker? Is he the option there? Or, if you do go like I'm looking to go, is a little bit more spend on the Minnesota side, trying to fit in a Tyler Johnson. Boy, Kelly Oubre looked great in that last game as well, just extremely active. So I'd like to slide Oubre in there for sure and see if we can make up a good squad. But anything else on this game?
I mean, yeah, like you said, Booker. I think if you have the cash, he's the upside's always there with him. So he's a guy that we're always targeting, especially in GPPs. And I'm looking back at Sarge as well. I think this is he's a fair price. He's a guy that's mid tier that we could be able to fit in. I'm not really worried about the 16 minutes in the last game. That was him coming back from an injury. They're going to need size in this game, and it's
Right.
also a little bit of a revenge narrative involved in there too. So, he's a guy I have an eye on. If we hear Carter starting, I have interest in basically whoever's starting. I think we can look at Tyler Johnson as a play coming off the bench. Actually, either way, because he's always kind of thrived in that extra usage 6-man role. But I'm only going
Right.
to have interest in Carter if we hear he's starting. That's the way I probably should have said it. And then Oubre, like you said, he's just been rolling. So I think I have a lot of interest in this Suns. That's kind of why I don't think I'm going to get Wiggins. I think get my exposure to Cat, Teague, and if I get one more value, and then pay up for some of these guys over here. If I can fit Booker, if I can fit Oubre, and then go with one of those mid tier guys. That's my build. That's kind of how I'm panning out.
That makes sense. And Baines, I believe, is still out. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, then that's why I think we're going to need to see a little bit more run from Sark, from Kaminsky. Kaminsky is a little hobbled, though. He's probable for the game, but he was dealing with a hip contusion coming in. And this is
Yeah.
something that, for big guys, they're banging hips down low a lot. So it wouldn't shock me if you see Cat, really, that's the matchup he's going to have. He's going to be forced to guard Karl Anthony Towns. So there's many avenues for Frank Kaminsky being limited, whether it's the hip issue, whether it's foul trouble, whether it's, Cat just bullying him to the point where they got to switch it up. All those reasons have me pointing towards Sarge a little bit more, and not to mention that we just talked about it. Covington's not playing, so they're going to be a little bit facing a little bit of a matchup difficulty on that side.
I'll tell you though, not to spend too much time on this game, but I watched Sarge because I really like the Suns. I was talking them up in preseason that they were going to be one of the more improved teams, and they finished last in the West, and they're 500 at 7-7. But they are on a losing streak, so they need to get it going. But a lot of they've just been decimated by injuries too. They've had tons of guys out, but I don't know. Sarge just hasn't looked exactly right. I don't know if you remember about a week ago we had talked about when they were going to play the Sixers, and we thought it might be a revenge game, and he just didn't look like he had that same swagger, popping threes and stuff, and he concerns me in that vein for sure. And with Baines out, man, that just makes Cat such a strong play for me. But this will be an interesting game with some pace, and it's just going to be a matter, I think, of picking that last two guys in your lineup could make the big difference in swinging it one way or the other.
Yeah, we don't really let's get off the game, but I'm not really going to keep going. We've been talking on this one for a while. I'm
I
sure
know
people
it.
there's very limited people who are talking to even playing it. But it's if you need it, it's there. If you don't want to play him, I completely understand. It's more of a GPP play. It's not like I'm saying he's a solid cash guy. So
All right, we're on to the main slate, dude. We have 9-game main slate starting at 7 o'clock. First game's the Chicago Bulls at the Charlotte Hornets, two teams that are struggling, not playing too well, and both teams coming off back-to-backs. Do you want to jump on one of these squads?
yeah, I expect a very tired defenses on both end. This should be a game that does provide some value. It has a pretty decent total, 216, but it's close spread. It's only -2. So I definitely
Right.
think there's going to be some fantasy value. Am I going to go overboard on it? No. I guess we could start over here on the Charlotte side. And for me, I think that looking at Rozier has been my method when I'm playing Charlotte. It's the price tag's been down ever since Graham's kind of inserted in the starting lineup, and I've kept saying it. I don't think that's hurting him. We've kind of seen the shot attempts still be there, and if anything, it opens up more room for him playing off ball once in a while. So I think he would be my main option if I'm looking at anybody over there on Charlotte.
Okay.
I just don't want to mess with any of the wings. If you want to play Graham, I think it's lightning in a bottle once in a while, and I just always get him wrong. So I'm just gonna kind of fade him and continue to fade him. If he burns me, he burns me. So be it. It's still a $7,100 price tag, so he'd have
Yeah.
to have a really good game to really burn me pretty badly. In the front court, it's kind of just hit and miss with PJ Washington and Cody Zeller. Both their minutes have kind of been up and down. I just don't want anything to do with this. So for me on the Charlotte side, I'm really just looking at Rozier.
Okay, and a couple other things on this game. We've got Chicago the 10th pace and Charlotte 21. So it is a pace down for Chicago, a pace up for Charlotte. And defensive efficiency, Chicago's 12th in the league. Charlotte is not good. They're 26th. So, what it does is between those two statistics and just looking at this game and the over-under and the performance of these two teams, I think it's one of the lesser interest games for me. Levine had a really subpar game the last time out. There is a narrative, though, that with Kobe White is from the North Carolina area. So it's a home game for all his family and friends
Beat
and
me to it.
everybody. Oh, I'm sorry,
Nah,
man.
I love it. I love that you do follow narratives and you play the narratives, but I'm usually big on the narratives. I always like to mention them either way.
I
I didn't think you were going to mention it. So I'm
ah.
that it's good, but it's bad because now I'm wondering. Wow, a lot of people, other people are probably noticing that too.
Well, some people follow that some stuff, some people don't. So I think it's definitely an edge. I mean, it puts Kobe in play for me, no question about it. I think, he's definitely going to have that extra motivation, and I think that the coach will give him a little extra run. This game's just not a strong game for me, though. I mean, the the center position Carter's been playing okay, and it is nice to attack Charlotte at the bigs, but he's been up and down, and Gafford's been getting some good backup minutes. All those Bulls guards again with Levine just playing average has just been not great, and on the Charlotte side, yeah, Devontae Graham is the sweetheart, but I'll tell you who was on fire the last couple of games is Malik Monk off the bench. He gets a little asterisk next to his name for a value play for me. Like if I'm really, really stuck and need a cheap guy as my last guy in cash, I'm not afraid to dial up Monk because he's that hot and his usage on the court is really good. But he's definitely a GPP option for me. And really, on the Bulls side, the only guy, because of Kobe with the narrative and the fact that he can get hot and fill it up, that's really the only two spots. Sort of odd, two guards off the bench are the only two guys I sort of like in this game. But that's it. What else you got there, man?
Well, you hit it right on the head for Kobe White for me. I think that he's going to the shot attempts I'm expecting with the hometown crowd. He didn't just go to UNC. His father went to UNC. He grew up
Yeah,
in North Carolina, so that full narrative is definitely in motion for him. So I get some interest from him, and then I'm going to keep my eye on Zach LaVine as a GPP play. The minutes have been down, but we know that the usage is generally always going to be there with him. It's just whether or not the shot's going to fall. He's been shooting pretty poor over the past few games. 42% in the last one is well-being, but 18%, 25% in the two prior. So, like you said, their defense is pretty porous. So it wouldn't shock me if LaVine has a better shooting night tonight, and at his price at 6,600 on DraftKings, I think he has some GPP appeal.
good call. All right, we go on to the second game on the main slate. It's also 7 o'clock. The Orlando Magic and the Indiana Pacers. Definitely an interesting game because I think a lot of people will go to this game for value because Vuk's out and Indiana still has guys out there. So there's like different spots where you can get some really cheaper guys. But here's my warning: is this a lollipop play as far as sucker play, if you will? Just in the fact that we got to look at this here. Orlando is the slowest pace team in the league, dead last. And Indiana is not that much better. They're 25th, and they've played even slower since they've had those injuries. So, that's a concern, considering, you want more possessions, more opportunity to get DFS points. On the defensive efficiency side, Orlando is sitting at, where is it? I just lost it. They're playing pretty tough D. They're 11th. They just slipped out of the top 10. They were actually playing a little bit better. And Indiana is 7th. So you've got two good defensive efficient squads up and down. Even with some of the injuries, they've been keeping the scores down. Slower paced teams. And that gives me a big scare, right off the bat. And I know the first spot everybody's going to look at is, do I go with Mo Bamba? Because he was such a plug and play last year when Vuk was hurt. But based on what the coach said, Mike, I heard that Khem Birch is probably going to get the start, and they're still going to bring Bamba off the bench. I want to get that validated today, but that's what I read yesterday. How do you think that's going to affect Orlando?
It's gonna be a wait and see, like you said on the starting lineup. I think both Kem Birch and Bamba are in play just because they're both to reduce salary. Yeah, even if Birch starts, Bamba will still see an increased role, probably a few extra minutes. But Bamba hasn't been playing well this season. It's just the tantalizing upside in a young prospect that we know that he can, have one of those above average rebounding games, and he can hit the three, and he can also block shots. So I do think there's some upside to be had in there. I think
Yeah,
that if he is coming off the bench, a lot of people will move away from him. So, that piques my interest a little bit more. I mean, we just saw that with Labissiere the other day on that 2 game slate. As soon as Tolliver
yeah,
got announced the starting lineup, Labissiere was only, I believe, 30% or 38%. It sounds like only, but it's a 2 game slate, and Whiteside's out. Ended up
yeah.
smashing. So I do think that there's some
I
appeal with him.
actually had him at 26%, and he scored
Oh
58.6.
yeah, I was all over.
I
I had him on
loved
every
it,
single.
man.
I 100%ed him, and it's
Me
probably a
too.
bad idea to do that. But once I
I
saw
know.
that he was coming off the bench, I had to load up. I saw it was an opportunity that he'd be lower owned, and the same
That
thing
was
could happen
awesome.
over here that we might see with
Yeah,
Bamba. So
possibly.
I do think he's still in play, but I think a lot of the usage is going to end up funneling to the guys that were already having the usage and being Terrence Ross and Jonathan Isaac. So I think with Isaac likely to slide up to the four, them starting Birch. I think that they mentioned starting Awundu, but it's going to be
Yeah.
Ross that's going to have to take a lot more shot attempts for Vucevic and for Gordon. He's a big scorer. He's going to be viable off the bench. So I think looking at that, it's kind of gravitating off of that starting lineup. What we see between Bamba, Birch, and then I think I'm going to be also looking at Ross. Isaac got a big price bump, but if there's ever a game or a situation that he's going to have that we can take advantage of it's this kind of situation. But their defense is tough, like you said on the Pacers. Maybe we don't pay that $7,500 price tag on DraftKings. We wait for hopefully a down game in this one. The situation's still going to be there. It doesn't look like Gordon and Vucevic are coming back relatively close anytime soon in the next game or two at least. Vucevic
Right.
much longer. But get him in a better matchup next time at a little bit of a reduced salary, and then we jump on it.
Yeah, and on the Indiana side, I know a lot of people are going to Aaron Holiday. He's been really stepping up with Brogdon out and playing well. His price has floated up a little bit, but I think he'll be a big target for folks as well. I'm telling you though, man, I know that this game, you're going to see, even though it's a 9 game slate, you're going to see so many lineups with one or two guys for sure from this team because people are going to want to stack the more expensive guys. They're going to, be looking to go to Birch or Bamba or Hall, either to the Holidays or somebody that's going to get 25 to 30 minutes, which they probably all will, and try to make their roster that way. But I'm going to stay away from this game. I'm not going to bite on that value. There's other value we can find with guys sitting out on a back-to-back. With the stats I read earlier, why would you want to have 25% of your team come from a game with two of the four slowest teams and two of the top 10 defensive teams in the league? So I'm really going to force myself to pass as much as possible here. How about you?
I mean, looking at the Orlando side, I think at the end of the day, I will try to take advantage of some of that value. Doesn't mean I'm going to go overboard, but maybe one of the value plays, whether it's Birch or Bamba,
Yeah,
or maybe even Ross if I want to go that way. And then if I was going to take any shots, like you said, I'm avoiding the whole Aaron Holiday thing. He got priced up. He did explode in the last one. I wouldn't expect back-to-back performances, especially in this game flow. Jeremy Lamb's expected to play now, so that's going to cut into some usage.
right.
So I'm really not touching anybody on the wings. If I was maybe going to look anywhere, it'd be the bigs, just taking advantage of the other side, knowing Gordon and Vucevic are out. It looks like Miles Turner's slightly underpriced at 6K. He's a little risky, so I would probably just
Right.
prefer playing Sabonis just because we know he's got that safe floor and safe ceiling. So and it's 8,100, you're not really getting a discount on him. So I'm not
No.
trying to force it. Like you said, it's really uninviting when you look at this game. It's the value for me, and that's pretty much it. And if you wanted to take the shot, if you have the extra money, he's the last guy you're throwing in. I don't mind Sabonis.
Yeah, I'm telling you though, man, you are going to be hard pressed to see an opponent's lineup that doesn't have somebody from this game, and I think it's a trap. I really do. I'm going to try my damnedest to avoid that game. So let's see if that pays off, my man. All right, we go to the third main slate game of 9. It's a 7:30 game. Toronto and Atlanta. Interesting game here. Toronto 10-4 coming in. Atlanta plays fast. They are the 11th rated team, still playing at a pretty good pace. And Toronto, take a guess where Toronto is, man. Just out of the blue without looking.
Pace?
Yeah,
I would probably say 12th, 13th.
you're awesome, man. They're 14th, so they're right in the middle of the board here. I know a lot of people thought they may be lower this season or were lower, but they've been in that upper half. So they're in the upper half, barely, but they're up there. So you can play Toronto games. They're not just defensive lockdown only. Now they are the fifth best defensive efficiency, so that definitely gets your attention. And then what gets the most attention for me is there are only 3 teams in the league that are worse defensively. Atlanta's 27th, and since they've had some injuries, they've been even falling further. So, I'll start off this one real quickly with Toronto. I think Fred VanVleet is probably one of my first cornerstone guys that I'm going to lock in. They just haven't priced him up to where I think he belongs to be. I mean, the guy is in the top 2 in the league in minutes played. He's taken on that usage from Lowry. Some of it has shifted to him, and he's just been a monster game after game. And he gets to go against, Trae Young defense, possibly a good portion of the game, and they may switch a few guys on him. But I just see this being such a smash spot for him. It's not even funny. Now, I do have a concern that, it's in Atlanta, so I'm hoping it's not going to come into play, but it could blow out. That's the other concern. And I know, it seems like Nick Nurse is not afraid to play his guys a lot of minutes this year. We talked about it for quite a while that, the top 2 minutes played guys in the entire league through the first 8 games were VanVleet and Lowry. So, I mean, he's letting his main guys play out there. So I think VanVleet gets enough run where he's going to cause some trouble at that price. I don't think he's been priced up high enough. And for me, to me, that really brings him into play. The Siakam piece, it's a little bit different, because then you really have to think about, is this game going to blow out, and is Siakam going to get the minutes? Because he is definitely a great play, but he's expensive. And, you have to factor that. Is he going to get the minutes to pay off his salary? So what do you think about the Toronto side, Mike?
I'm with you on VanVleet. I think he's in a great spot. I don't understand why they're not pricing him up, so I feel good about playing him. Siakam's price tag compared to what his floor is a little bit off-putting. We've seen some 30, 35-point games. I'm really looking for that 45 or 50. It's definitely possible in this kind of matchup. But I think with that 9,100, I'll probably spread that out somewhere elsewhere on the slate. So I'm really just looking at VanVleet on the Toronto side.
I'm with you. How about Atlanta? You want to dive into that?
Yeah, sure. So I think when you look at Atlanta, obviously the first spot you're going to go to is Trae Young. Yeah, the price tag's finally up to where it probably should be at 9,800. The performances have been down over the past few games, and this is a tough matchup. So if you want to play Trae Young, I'm not going to knock you. I know that he has that 50, 60-point upside. We've seen it night in and night out. And again, if you're playing like Coach saying this could be a blowout, I mean, at the end it's only coming in at a 6.5-point spread right now. Obviously, Toronto being favored, so I'm not necessarily steering clear as though it's going to be a blowout. But there's always the possibility it's the Hawks. If Trae Young's shooting bad, they're probably not staying in a game. So there's that point. So if you're game scripting it and you are playing somebody, like VanVleet, and you wanted to run it back with Trae Young, it makes sense because if this game stays close and you want all 4 quarters out of both guys, a pretty decent game should be coming out of Trae Young. But I'm not going to overexpose myself to that kind of scenario. You're paying for it. So, GPPs is where I'm looking at him. I'm not thinking he's a cash game play. You're the cash game guy, Coach. But I think, if we see another game where Reddish sits out, Bembry at 4,300, that's where you can get exposure to this game, whether it blows out or doesn't blow out. At 4,300, the price tag is fine, and he's very, very viable for GPPs. He's a little risky for cash, but I love playing this guy when I know he's getting increased opportunity. He gets it done in so many different ways.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait for the news. I believe Reddish is still questionable, correct?
Yeah, it's not quite out there yet. That's why I wanted to just throw it out there with the caveat. If Reddish plays, it's definitely going to take some juice out of the lineup for me.
Yeah. I've been really having a lot of success playing some of the ancillary Atlanta guys. Bembry, Hunter's done really well lately. If you pick Jabari on the right day, I mean, you can make some good selections there, but against Toronto just doesn't seem like the right spot for me anyway. I mean, they're such a good defensive unit. They really play well together, and as washed up as Gasol plays, I mean, he was a defensive player of the year at one time. He still knows positioning and how to create some trouble inside. So I'm a little fearful of some of the Atlanta ancillary guys, and it's definitely not a good idea to game script a blowout in only a 6.5 point spread. But I've got a little concern there, enough that I'm probably going to go Van Vliet, and if Bembry is starting and Reddish is definitely out, Bembry is definitely worth a look because he plays so hard, and this is a good matchup for him. So you got to consider him as well. But that's it for me in this game. Do you have any other thoughts there?
No, that's really all that's getting my attention right now.
All right, game 4 in the 9-game main slate, 7:30, San Antonio Spurs at the New York Knicks. Two teams that are not going well. The Spurs 5-11, Knicks 4-11. Definitely not a barn burner game for viewership. That's for sure. As far as defensive efficiency, just to give you an idea of what these teams have been doing, New York is down at 19, so they're not getting it done. And what's amazing to me, and I bet you this, I guarantee you without even looking this up, this is the worst defensive rating for a Pop team in his career. They're 28th. There's only 2 teams worse in the league defensively. They have been getting absolutely scorched. So really bizarre to figure on that one. But and then in the pace side of things, New York's playing the 28th slowest, so they're not getting up and down the floor. And maybe the reason why San Antonio is getting scorched is they have been trying to push the pace a little bit. They're still only 16th. They're not even in the top half. So, it's just they're not good, and their rotation doesn't make any sense. Man, this is just a game where you got 2 disappointing teams with 2 disappointing efforts here. But, where do you find the value in this game? I don't know. Anybody to me that has even a thought of playing is somewhat too expensive. The only guy that I'd consider, I want to see the news on the San Antonio guards, because they've had different guards sitting out a lot. And when Patty Mills starts and plays, 28 minutes, his, solid run to 30, which, when he has his true bench role with White and Murray playing is more towards the, 18-minute mark, which doesn't make him viable to me. But if he's going to start and get minutes, if a White or Murray combination isn't in there, then I think he deserves a look. But I don't want to spend up in this game for Aldridge or DeRozan. DeRozan is playing good ball, and DeRozan would be the guy that I would look at if anybody in this entire game. But really, that's all I've got so far in this one. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not playing anybody in this game. I'm not paying 5,200 for Patty Mills. It's just you're paying for him at that point. He's a good play when we know we're getting him for like that 43 or 38 or whenever he's down there. But yeah, I'm good. I don't think we need to force it too much on either side of the ball. Just very unappealing. All the guys that you generally want to target when they're at that right price tag and the right matchup are, like you said, priced up even on the other side of the ball. So I'm good. I'm pretty good.
Awesome. All right, the next game, which I think will be the most fun game to watch, I don't know if it'll be the best DFS game, but it'll be the most fun game to watch to me, is a 7:30 game, Miami Heat at Philadelphia 76ers. You've got a boatload of narratives here that are exciting. Jimmy Butler's got some bad blood with Philly for sure. He's not happy about some things that took place there, so that's a big narrative game there. I think Jay Rich is going to be out. He's either doubtful or questionable, but that would have been nice if he could have gone against Miami. you have 11-3 and 10-5 team facing off. Miami's been beating the doors in on people. I don't see any news on Joel Embiid. He did play last night. I think he'll play on a back-to-back because it's the Heat and it's such an important game. So I'm going to do my initial scouting here that he is going to be in.
He only played 28 minutes in the last one, so I would expect that he plays and sees close to 30, 32.
I think so too. I don't know about 30-32, but that would be great. If he's going to play 30-32, that makes him very viable. Miami does have the second best defensive efficiency in the league, so that really puts them, right into the middle of it. Their defense is just swarming, and but Philadelphia, I looked up a stat earlier. The biggest thing that stuck out to me is when Embiid's on the floor, they're 15 points better in defensive efficiency than when he's off, which is the biggest difference plus minus in the entire league. So if he's in there, I mean, these two teams they don't like each other. It's they're going to feel like it's a playoff atmosphere. They're going to be going at it super hard. I think it's going to be a really, really fun game. But, I'd lean towards Jimmy Butler in this matchup. I'd love to play Joel Embiid, but I do really respect Bam's defense. But I want to be able to put a couple of guys in from this game, and I'm still deciding on exactly who that is. Maybe you can shed some light for me, Mike. What do you think?
So on the Philly side, I definitely think I'm not as worried about the back-to-back, just given, like you said, how important this game is going to be, the narrative surrounding it. I mean, these are two teams that are both in the top 5 in the Eastern Conference, kind of jockeying for position left and right. Over the last 10, the Sixers have been 5-5 due to their little nagging injuries around their team, and the Heat fully took advantage of it and went 8-2. So we kind of seen a little position swap. I'm sure that's in the back of everyone's mind. And like you said, it's both teams on on a back-to-back right now, right? I believe Miami played yesterday. Am I just talking out of the corner of my mouth? Am I wrong on this one?
I don't. I think they did. Yeah, they did. They played against the Bulls and they beat them by 8. So,
and that was a huge narrative for Butler in there. So there might not be a lot of gas left in the tank. I'm sure he has enough fire to go around. Don't get me wrong, but it's an advantage for both teams. So we might see the interior be a little weaker. And Joel is just an offensive powerhouse at 9,200. We know he could pay off that salary. So maybe not in cash games, but in GPPs, I definitely think he's still viable, and he may go a little under owned due to all those other reasons. So, and then other than that, I think everybody else is pretty priced appropriately. I took advantage of the Horford under 6K price the other night, and it paid off with a little over 37 DraftKings points. So, Harris is always a GPP option at 6,400. The price tag's fair, and he's a little boomer bust. He's either going to get you 25 or 42. So, if you want to take a shot at him, I don't mind it. But those are the only two options I'm really looking at on the Philly side of the ball.
Yeah, and what about Miami?
I think I'm gonna avoid the Butler price tag. To be honest, I like the narrative. Don't get me wrong. I like playing Butler 8,600. I don't want to pay that on this kind of slate. I know that we have other options that I'm kind of gravitating towards. If you play him, I'm not going to knock you. I can easily see him hitting value. But due to the defensive matchup, it's not a great matchup. It is a back-to-back, and it's a big price bump. I took advantage of him against the Bulls because he was underpriced and the narrative was there. I think he's priced appropriately, and there's a narrative there. So a little less ownership for him tonight. I think Bam's always in play. 7,400, he should be priced up. It's going to be a tough matchup. But he gets it done in so many ways. The assists for him, almost at 5 this season. He's a passing big man. He's getting defensive stats. The boards are generally there. So if you want to look towards him, I don't mind. But really not too interested in anybody in this game. I think that there's some hidden value that could be there with their bench bigs, whether Leonard starts, but not really a primary focus between Leonard and Olynyk, just because that we know that they're going to be running out a big combo on the other side with Horford and Embiid. Those guys, if somebody gets into foul trouble in the front court, the other guy's going to be taking advantage of it.
I'll tell you, Kendrick Nunn's been playing good ball too. He's got to at least be on the radar, although his price continues to drift up every day, it seems like. But, man, I just like the narratives in this game so much. I like Jimmy Butler so much. I think I really like Joel Embiid too. I think you're going to have half the people say, I don't want to take Joel on a back-to-back. and the other, maybe 35% saying, the Heat has the second best defense in the league or third best, whatever it is, and they blah blah blah. But Embiid gets up for these kind of games, man. He just lives for these kind of matchups. I think it would be a little contrarian to do it, but wouldn't it be awesome to have Butler, on, and then Embiid on the other side and just watch this one play out?
There's definitely the narrative in there, and we've seen plenty of game stacks like that be profitable in the past. I don't know if I want to spend all my money on those two guys
That's a
on
lot of money.
and
Yeah,
the game total is only 214.5 right now.
I
There's
know.
it's one of the lower ones on the slate. There's only actually one more that is lower than that, and that's the one that we spoke about earlier,
Yeah.
Orlando and Indiana. So for
Yeah.
all the reasons, I don't know if I want to spend up too much, but I expect it to be a tight game. I expect it to be a competitive game. And maybe grabbing a one off at one of those expensive guys is somewhere you want to go. Like I said, I think Embiid's in a pretty good spot with that narrative and with the price tag. So I that's what I mean. And when you're looking at the Butler versus Embiid, there's only a $600 difference right now.
I know, that's crazy. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick here as well is, and something I've been factoring in to my numbers as I'm looking at things. I've had guys, and it's the most painful thing in the world when you pick the right guy. He's playing a really, really good game, but the team blows out and the guy loses like 10 minutes in the fourth quarter, which is, like a third of his stats at least for fantasy. And it just crushes you. And so what I've been trying to factor in when I'm looking at these over-unders, because I look at those as a big part of my handicapping, because you want more possessions, more points for more DFS points. But if it looks like there's just no way it's a blowout to me and it's going to be a great crunching close game where everybody plays the full way, this game falls into that category. So even though it's a lower over under, I almost bump that up by like 8 points or so in my mind because of the closeness and the extra minutes for the main players. Just something I wanted to throw in there. And that's what brings this game a little bit more into play for me. And I think there will be some people that are scared off of it. But, I'm definitely at worst going to fire up that narrative street with those guys in a GPP. But one of them might find my main cash lineup too, just because I'm enthralled by that game. All right, man, let's go. We've got 4 more games left on the main slate. A couple things real quickly. Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company, we want to thank them. They are our title sponsor. Please keep supporting our sponsors and order up some Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee. Also, go to hoop-ball.com. We have some tremendous premium packages. We have tons of podcasts, box score breakdowns. We've got, way beyond just the DFS stuff. We have a lot of stuff for the year-long leagues and the head-to-heads and all of that. Dan Vespris does an NBA Fantasy Today show that is best in class in the industry. Tens of thousands of listeners, and you want to catch that as well. So also for our DFS side, go to hoop-ball.com, go to forums, go to the DFS threads. We have a couple of guys, Miles and Andy, who you may know. They also do some pods for us, filling in. And Miles is actually on our regular schedule now too. So those guys do a great job. That's a great place to go for injury news, matchups, the slate with over-unders, totals, all that. So click on that as much as you can. And remember, if you're looking for us, we're generally going to be there. Today's an exception. We usually do the show the night before, as our listeners know, and then it comes out first thing in the morning, so you can listen to it on the way to work or whatever. But on the weekend, we wanted to do a live show, or a little bit more of a live show, if you will, even though this is going to come out right after, and make it a little bit more up to date. So tune in to us anytime. Just search NBA DFS today, or just DFS today, and we're going to come up. We're on everywhere that you can find a podcast. We're there: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, we're there. All we ask that you do is take 30, 45 seconds, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars, likes, positive reviews, a little statement here and there. That all helps us just keep this entire thing free in front of the paywall. And I am convinced, and I've heard them all, I think we're the best 7-day-a-week NBA DFS content out there. So please keep tuning in, like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. Twitter is key. You want to stay up to date. Like even this information we're giving to you this morning, the games play in 10 hours from right now, approximately. So in that time frame, you've got to be scouring everything here to make sure you see any changes, updates, player limitations, load management situations. One guy will make or break your lineup. And, there's been some big numbers. I mean, there's on some of these slates, you have to score nearly 400 DFS points to really make some money. So you can't have a dud in the lineup. So follow us on Twitter at Hoopball Fantasy. We'll give you all of our Hoopball stuff constantly being updated. I'm at Joe Sarvadi. That's JoeSarvadi. He is at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. And Andrew is at Language Olympic. And Miles is at Miles, MYLES 6565. So look us up on there. We're posting things throughout the day. I'll be posting stuff on there today on Twitter right up until the 7 p.m. Eastern lock. All right, let's tackle these final 4 games and let get this out there so our listeners can start building some shell lineups to work with throughout the day. So we've got an 8 p.m. game, Portland Trail Blazers at the Cleveland Cavaliers. 2 teams going in the very wrong direction. Portland 5-11, Cleveland 4-11, and I watched some of that Cleveland-Dallas game, and it was nasty. Cleveland got drilled. They are not playing well, but it is a home game against a team that is reeling. What is the Lillard news, my man?
Probable.
That's what I thought. So Dame back against Cleveland. That is hard not to play. If he's do you believe he's gonna be on a limits restriction? Have you seen anything? Because I haven't.
The limits restriction might be them just pounding it down their throat before they get to the fourth quarter, to be honest. I mean, I think that's going to be their goal. Just they don't want to play in big minutes. I mean, if it's tight, I think they will if they need to. I don't think they'd be bringing him back against Cleveland if he wasn't ready to play.
Right.
But, it's tough to, the salary is nice. But I think, me personally, I'm not going to be getting too many shares of him just for the simple fact that this Cleveland team can't defend anybody. McCollum's been lighting it up. I don't want to pay that price tag. He's only $200 cheaper than Lillard. So if it came
what about Carmelo? A Carmelo sighting.
Listen, I love seeing him back in the NBA. I'm not going to be one of the haters. I played him a little bit last game, and I was able to jump on when he was still at a low salary and get the price, get some value out of the price tag. But now he's at $5K. Lillard's going to be back. There goes a lot of that usage.
He was 3,800 when I played him, or 36. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going towards that price tag when we know that
Lillard's
going to be in the lineup. So I'm really not interested in anybody on the Portland side of the ball. And I'll just hop right over to Cleveland if you don't mind. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in anything on Cleveland either.
Great insight, man. You're all over this.
I'm good with this game. I don't think that we really need to focus on it. There's gonna be a lot of other games that we could look at. I get it. It's the opposite take of what I just had with your case of there possible be blowout with what was it, Toronto and Atlanta. The spread's not high on this, but when this team is actually clicking on all gears, they could score very easily, and I think that they're gonna, Cleveland's gonna struggle to keep up with them.
I may be completely out of my mind, dude. So talk me off the ledge here if I am, but I think this is a sneaky game where if you get the right couple guys could win you a slate, because I think the entire industry approaches it just like you thought, and I don't know if it's that blatant. I know both teams stink, but it's in Cleveland, and the way Portland's played, I can't picture them or game script them blowing anybody out. They've been so bad, and their defense is horrific. Cleveland is what Dallas just got layup after layup after layup when I watch them. They just don't even play any defense. So, I'm tempted here because if this game stays close, Cleveland, first of all, it's a big pace up for them. Portland's 8th in the league. Cleveland's 26th. So, it's paced down for Portland, but, you factor in the fact that they're the 22nd and 25th worst defensive teams in the league. Man, if just picture this for a second. If you draw this up, this is weird, but let's just say that this game stays within 10 the whole way, and Lillard gets 30 minutes. Because I agree with you. If he wasn't right at all, they would not play him in this game. So when he plays, he usually plays. He doesn't get, like a 20-minute restriction. He could get 60 fantasy points without blinking in this game, in my opinion. With the defense, the Cleveland's guards don't defend a lick. And then if you come back on the other side, Kevin Love played very limited minutes last night. He can put up 20 rebounds in a game or score off the chart. So I think he plays. Again, we have to see that news. But, man, if you have like a Lillard-Love duo in this game, for example, or if you want to go down in price a little bit, maybe go McCollum and maybe a Tristan Thompson. And here's why I say that. Whiteside's probably going to be out again. He's questionable or doubtful. I doubt he's going to play. So you got the whole Scal and the mixture. I went to Scal. He was my hero the last game out, like I said, but he played a perfect game. I just don't see that coming again. And they'll rotate some guys, and any of that usage that was spread around, Lillard's going to scoop. But, man, I find myself looking at this game thinking this could be the edge on this slate to roster two guys in a game that has a very good potential of staying close with two really shitty defensive teams that nobody's going to play. What do you think, man?
I mean, it has all the makings to be there. I do like Lillard's price tag. Like I said, if I knew this game was going to stay close, guaranteed, locked in stone, yeah, I'd definitely have some interest in Lillard. It is going to be a little bit of a difference though with him playing alongside Carmelo Anthony. Prior to him being hurt, he was playing alongside Nassir or Little at the starting four, and Little was a guy that would take somewhere between 4 and 6 shots a game. So that is going to be a little bit of a usage distribution going around. We're going to have to kind of see. So there's reasons why I can easily see playing him. And if you're going to stack it, obviously Lillard makes the most sense. He's underpriced compared to anybody else on their team who seem like they're all a little bit more overpriced. And like you said, they are pretty two crappy teams. So I think at GPPs he's worth a look. I think at cash games I'll probably avoid him.
I'll tell you, man, I had McCollum and Scal in that last game, and I haven't enjoyed a DFS game that much. It's like every time down, it was like Lillard, McCollum 3, Scal rebound, kick it, McCollum miss, Scal rebound, kick back out, McCollum 3, boom. I mean, those two guys just were crushing it. Maybe I have too much love for that from watching that one. So I've got to think it through a little bit, but I don't know, man. I'm tempted though.
It sounds like you're playing some GPPs tonight, Coach. That's what it sounds like to me.
You know what? That's a good point. Maybe this is a GPP night for the coach. Maybe I take a little different approach since I'm liking a lot of these GPP style plays and build maybe 10 hand-built GPP lineups and just avoid the cash. That wouldn't be a bad idea because it seems like in my mind as we're building this, I'm glad you brought it up, man. That's why it's so great to talk these through. It sounds like I've got some great GPP lineups together, but not as much on the cash side where you can get smoked. So,
a couple of volatile plays who definitely have the upside and all the makings to be very good plays, which is where it piques your interest. But when you're willing to put one guy like that in all of your lineups, you can easily see yourself having a losing cash night if it doesn't fall right for him. So I think you should, man. I think you definitely should. Maybe look at one of those 20 entry max ones if you got the time.
Yeah.
If you can build $24 entries.
I never play those. I never play them, but I like the idea. I think that like I say, I think I'm going to be pretty contrarian with my plays, but I like them. It's one of those scenarios where it's probably going to be 250 and I'm going to be, sliding into the Homer Simpson back into the bushes where nobody can see you, or it's going to be, contrarian 400 score, I'm lighting up Twitter. So who knows, man? You never know. The coach has a couple of surprises in his pocket for those GPPs once in a while. I've taken my share down.
I've seen him. So I'm with you on it. I'm going to be waiting to see what kind of coach we see on Twitter, whether it's the Homer Simpson or the one
Oh
celebrating.
God,
But
yeah.
I think
I'll
you have
have
an
them
avenue
both
for both.
keyed up. I'll have them both keyed up. All right, I'm gonna let you jump on this next game because I don't know what to think here. Is AD gonna play? Is he gonna sit on the
He's
back to
playing.
back?
He's playing. Well, we're
100%.
actually, yeah, he's 100% playing. I can promise you he's playing.
Okay, so we
And
got
it's
Lakers Grizzlies. Jump on it, dude.
yeah, it's only simply because since we've been on the podcast, I've been keeping an eye out on the news, and it
Oh,
broke it
man.
this morning saying that he was going to play. So I fully expect him to play, and obviously when you're looking at the Lakers side of the ball, LeBron James and Davis are obviously two main pieces that we're going to be taking into
Who are
account.
those guys?
Yeah, right. Well, they're both definitely in play. It's tossing it up which guy you want to play. It's always hard to decide. I think I prefer the price tag. With Davis being 1,000 cheaper, he's kind of been performing well over the past two games, 260-point performances. So yes, it is a back to back, but he said he's playing. I think we're going to see a little bit of that different mentality when he's playing with the Lakers as opposed to playing with the Pelicans, where he literally felt like he was playing for no ownership, no front office, no team. He just
Yeah,
didn't
but
enjoy his
dude,
time.
AD is fragile,
Oh,
man.
he is. Don't get me
If he
wrong.
has a gas pain in his stomach, he sits. Come on.
You may be right, but it's also a pace bump for him. So it's not just AD playing. It's the scenario that he's in. He's going against a young Jaren Jackson Jr. He might be able to show him a thing or two.
Or
Uh,
Joe Val.
yeah, well, they play big, so I would expect Davis to still continue playing the four, and then trot out the combination of Dwight Howard and McGee over at center, and that's where I'm going to have some interest in Joe Val. We'll get to that side of the ball. I'm always on Joe Val if I think he's going to play the
Yeah,
minutes.
but I don't you think that AD's going to guard him?
It very well could be. It could, but Joe Val's a guy where he's a point per minute producer. If he's not getting it done in the scoring column, the rebounds will still be there if he's playing minutes. And I think that he'll still be able to get his own on putbacks and other ways. So either way, looking at Joe Val's price tag, I think that's where my main appeal is. He's in that 6K range, knowing that he has
Yeah.
the upside he does for a point per minute guy. And barring blowouts, he looks like his minute totals being lifted. So we've seen a 30-minute game. That was all I needed to see to kind of have
Right.
that
He
confidence
had
in knowing that he
almost
could
two.
get
He
there.
had two of those in a row, by the way.
Yeah, and that's what I
Yeah.
mean. So we know we don't need to worry about that. So if this game does have the makings to stay close, the spread is I think it's an 8-point spread right now. So it's right teetering on that line of where we have to really consider watch out for the blowout. But Joe Val, even in limited minutes at 6K, if he plays 25, he could still get to where we need him to be, and he has the upside if he's playing 30 plus. So. I'm looking at Davis over LeBron. I think I'm, Rondo on the other side of the ball. I know I'm hopping around and apologize. Got a flagrant thrown out of the last game, so that's kind of why we saw the minutes down. So, he had his minutes lifted as well, and I think, they mentioned it in the preseason. They want to get Rondo involved. They want him to play a lot with the starters. I think it's a matter of time before one of those big Rondo games are around the corner. Where he can really pay off an tournament price tag. So I think at his price, still under 5K, he's going to be an option. So those are the only people I'm really looking at the Lakers side. And on the other side, I think, it's just going to be Joe Val and Morant as a tournament play because with him, it's really volatile with the minutes. If he's playing 30-plus minutes, he's fantastic. The shot attempts are there. The usage is there. It's just we just don't know, and it's kind of going to be a little bit of a difficult matchup for him, a little bit of a pace down for the Grizzlies. So I'm just relying on him in tournaments.
Yeah, this is such a confusing game for me because, it's an odd one because the Lakers are on a road trip and they're playing on a back-to-back. Memphis has been, got a nice night's sleep last night at home. They didn't play. They got refreshed for this game. And, that gives a big edge to the Grizz. But the Lakers are just so much better. I was hoping AD would sit because Joe Val was going to be an automatic plug and play for me. I would have loved him in this spot. But I'm fearful of Anthony Davis' defense. I mean, he has arguably been top 5 in the league defensively this first 15 games
You
of the
said it,
year.
you said it for the past 6 years too.
Yeah.
There's no doubting his defense. No,
Yeah,
it's
but I
there.
mean, I agree with you. He's been great, but I mean, I'm talking like possible defensive player of the year type great. So, I think he is going to guard Joe Val. That's my gut feeling. I think that they'll let McGee guard Triple J and switch around that way. Now I could be wrong, and if it's McGee or Howard on Joe Val, I think it helps him a little bit. Not that those two guys are terrible on defense. I mean, their interior defense is good, but yeah, that makes me fearful of taking him. I don't want to spend up on stinking LeBron and AD, but I say that every damn show. It seems like I fade those two guys, and they just kick ass all the time, and I'm sort of getting tired of it. And I'd love to dial one of them up. I just don't know if I want to spend that kind of money. That's what I've got to make a decision on is, and then, it's always comes down to, and I'm sure a lot of people in the industry are finding this too, is, it's not like when Harden and Westbrook got together this year, I thought, okay, we're going to be in those nights where which guy do I play? And you're going to get in that quandary, being back and forth, but it's not that way. Harden's a million times better play every night than Westbrook. But in this situation with Davis and LeBron, it's a dead ass toss up, I think, on a given night. Either guy is possibly can go off. So I don't know, man. I mean, I can see going with one or the other. I don't know. I think because of the back-to-back with the Lakers, the game stays closer. I think that this game certainly could be very high scoring. Let's take a quick look at the pace here. If you look, right now the Lakers are playing only at the 18th pace, which isn't as fast as I had thought, but Memphis is playing at the 7th. So it's a pace up game for the Lakers. Great. That means more possessions, more shots for the Lakers. That brings them into play even more. But then on the defensive efficiency side, the Lakers are third in the league in D, which, puts a little bit of crunch on the Memphis dudes. But Memphis is only 24th. That's bad. So Lakers are in play, dude. There's no doubt about it. I'm tempted to dial up Rondo. I like the way he looked before he got tossed out last night. He just looks like he's right, I think he's dangerous. Kuzma's okay with that wicked eye poke, right? He's good to go.
Yeah, he should be fine. I just the usage is just no longer there for him, and it's really tough for him to get any meaningful playing time because he's always going to be on the floor, whether it's next to AD or LeBron, somebody that's going to be
Hard.
obviously
His
dictating that
prices are
offense.
good though.
The price is good, and that's the problem. I got suckered into the price the other night, and I paid for it, and he put up another dud game. So I think the floor is just a little too low. And when you mentioned AD and LeBron, I think LeBron it makes sense for the safer cash play. His floor seems to be there every single night, and he does still have the ceiling, and you're paying for the ceiling. That's why you're paying 11-1 for him. AD does have a little bit lower of a floor. We've seen a couple 30-point duds from him, and that's maybe more of the GPP play for you.
Yeah. Well, we gotta watch this one close. I think, it's a tough call. I'll tell you, I've been disappointed when I've rostered Jaw. He definitely has a ceiling that he shouldn't have. I think it should be a little higher, but they don't seem to, overextend him at all. So that's a bit of a concern as well. All right, man. We got two games left. There's no super late hammer tonight. There's just an 8:30 and a 9. There's no real late game. The 8:30 game is Detroit and Milwaukee. Is Blake Griffin playing on a back-to-back? He's probably the best candidate to sit, I would think, but I haven't seen news there. They're 5-10 going against the 12-3 Bucks in Milwaukee. What are your initial thoughts?
It's the news that you mentioned is obviously something that we're going to have to focus on. Right now, this game's coming in with a -12 spread for
Ouch.
Milwaukee, so that may be an indicator that Blake is planning on sitting. Either way, I think this is going to be a really tough game to play unless you're scripting it. So, if you're scripting this game to stay close, I think there's options on both sides. I think Andre Drummond's price tag is just way too cheap for the upside that he
Yeah, it went
has.
way down
Yeah,
since last.
83,
Remember, he
80.
was 10-4 that
Yeah,
one game last week.
and
Yeah,
it's even more in play if Blake Griffin sits. But that's kind of why we saw it was up there. He was really overperforming with Blake Griffin being out. Some of the usage is being obviously directed towards Blake now, and we're seeing Blake play a little bit more on ball as well. So I'm not going to play Blake Griffin in this matchup, knowing it's a back to back. I think at the very least he'll be limited. I think if I'm scripting it, if I'm playing one of either Bledsoe or Giannis, then I'll look to run it back with some Andre Drummond, hope to get 4 quarters out of these guys. But we've seen centers kind of get limited by Brook Lopez pulling them away from the basket in these matchups
yeah.
before. So it's purely a game script. If I'm playing Bledsoe or Giannis, then I'm definitely playing Drummond. Otherwise, I'll probably just steer clear of this game. Other than maybe a little bit of a one-off of Drummond because of that price tag here and there.
You think Giannis will get much ownership?
I think he always gets a fair amount of ownership, especially when we see him on a slate without James Harden, because those are usually the two comparable guys that could put up that 80-point game
Yeah.
night in and night out. So I do think he'll get some decent ownership. I mean, I'm not really looking forward to paying 12K for anybody unless a significant counterpart on the team is sitting out, or if the matchup is just one that I can't ignore. And I don't think either one of the cases are really there for Giannis right now. But when you look at Bledsoe, I've been mentioning him on probably just about every single pod we've done by now.
Right.
I think that he's going to continue thriving in this kind of matchup. He's going to continue seeing an increase in usage. And 7,600, yes, it's a price bump. It's still not where it needs to be. This guy, night in and night out of close games, has 40-point upside.
He does. I respect Bruce Brown defense though, and I think he'll be pushing on Bledsoe a little bit. That's my only concern there. But plus, the blowout concern here is there. If Griffin sits, in Detroit is not playing that well beyond Drummond. But I'll tell you though, at the price tag, and you might, this is like hit the rewind and replay button, because since the very first preseason game to now, I always say the same thing. I know I apologize for repeating myself now for the 27th time, but when Griffin sits, I play Drummond. I just do, because the dude just eats everything in the paint. Everything. I mean, it's ridiculous how well he does in the paint. And so if Griffin sits, I'm not afraid to dial up Andre. It's his year. It's his free agent after this year. There's rumors out there this week that Charlotte's going to offer him the max deal to try to get him away, and all this stuff is churning. I think he's just going to get the big minutes and kill it every night. And I'll tell you, I'm going to give you something else to think about going, even if Griffin plays tonight or in future games. To me, at this point, and I know this is a bold statement, but I'm going to say it. When Drummond plays, I can't play Griffin, period, because he is not getting any of those rebounds, putbacks, anything. And his ceiling is lower than I've ever seen it before, basically because Drummond's playing way more minutes, way more usage, way more effectiveness. And I just think I'm going to fade Griffin unless Drummond has a game where he sits out. But if Griffin sits, I'm not afraid to spend that. That is not expensive. That's a really good price for Drummond. He could put up a 20-20 game against Milwaukee, because Brook is great on the perimeter, and I know he's been blocking some shots, but he is not going to be able to handle Drummond on the glass. And, for that reason, I really like him. On the Milwaukee side, I'm going to try to maybe squeeze value here. A guy that I have a little circle around, again, this is probably why I'm going to be GPP Joe today, is DiVincenzo has slipped into that starting spot for Middleton, and he's consistently put DFS points in the 20s up with some upside and looks really good out there, and he's cheap. So that might be a guy to look at. What do you think of that call, or am I reaching?
I don't think you're reaching. You're right. He has been putting up pretty solid performances on the board. I mean, now you're also paying over 5K for him. So I think there's not enough juice left on the bone for that.
Yeah.
Looking at his past performances, 28, 25, 33 is a nice for that price tag. 25, he's hitting the 5X, but he's not getting much more over 5X. So I don't know if he'd be in a winning GPP lineup unless your game stacking it, and this game just happens to, stay really close, and maybe it's, him, Bledsoe, or Giannis and him just really firing. So I don't know. I don't knock you for it. I just don't think I'll be there.
Yeah, what's killing me is a lot of these sneak guys that I was getting at 36, 37, 38 are now 5,000, 51, 52, and that does change the whole picture. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. That's going to be very interesting, and I'm we got to await that news for sure on Griffin. But he would be my number one candidate to probably sit. Okay, let's go to the final game. It's 9:00, so it is 30 minutes later than any other game. So I guess we consider this sort of the late night sweat hammer game. And it is a weird one because you got the Pelicans who want to run and go and shoot and run, and the Jazz who are going to grind the life out of you and foul you and slow you down and get it done. So 6-9 Pelicans at the 10-5 Jazz. You've got right now the Pelicans, the third fastest team in the league. Utah's 20th. It's not the worst. They've been usually down at the very bottom. So they are playing a little bit quicker than they normally have. But here's a big thing that you got to worry about. Utah is the number one team in the league defensively. So they could easily put the clamps on the young Pelicans pretty damn fast. And I'll tell you, the Pelicans have been just a beautiful place to go for value. You can usually get like two Pelicans pretty darn cheap to make out your roster, but they got to go to Utah, play against the number one defense in the league. That is a little bit scary for sure. What do you think?
I'm not really interested in anybody on the Pelicans side, to be honest. This game in general is kind of, a little problematic for me, I think. It's just, looking at the Pelicans, they're actually on the front half of a back-to-back. Lonzo Ball has returned. He's playing limited minutes. So, the Jazz, their defense, the way they've been playing, I just think this has all the makings to be a limited minutes for a lot of their starters because they are playing tomorrow, especially, Lonzo might sit. So if that's the case, if Lonzo does sit and, it being the front end, we'll find that news out. I'm probably relatively early enough where we can make the decision or, at least take advantage of a late swap in it. You could start looking at maybe a couple of these guards, whether it's JJ Redick, or Drew Holiday playing primarily at point. But I think just with the front end of a back-to-back, them playing in Utah against this Utah team, it's kind of pulling a lot away from it.
Yeah. Do you think this blows out?
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I don't even know if they released the total for it yet. Actually, they have. It's -8, so that kind of is right on that teetering line that we talked about. Yeah, it's not bad, but it also it's a red flag where I wouldn't say plant the flag, run away, blowout, but with it being like I said, the front end of a back-to-back and all the other makings, it just takes too much away from me. I don't really see a ton of upside. I know Brandon Ingram, we jumped on that price tag right away in that game that he returned against Phoenix, and it paid off. I was all over him. Now it's a little bit of a different scenario. He's 8,400 in Utah. Yes, he's been performing great. But if there's some matchups where you do want to jump off, or you're hoping other people have the ownership and they get that down game of a 34, DK point night, that's kind of what I'm looking for in this one. I'm hoping other people jump on it. Maybe I get a little bit of exposure over on the Utah side, and just hope that in the case that it stays close, I got some action in it. But I really don't want to just go overboard and go against what I'm thinking.
Well, I'll tell you the guy I'm interested in. Tell me what you think about this take. I don't often take Rudy Gobert, but this just seems like the best spot ever for him. I mean, Favors, I think, is out again. Okafor probably won't play. If he does, he's going to be limited for sure. So, I mean, God bless him. I love Jackson Hayes, but he's like rake thin, and Gobert's just a tower in there. And so I don't know how Gobert doesn't get like every rebound, a bunch of putbacks, and New Orleans tries to play small and play like little tiny Kenrich Williams at center. And I don't know how they're going to match up against Gobert without any of the bigs playing. So that's a concern. Do you think he's in play?
I do think he's in play, and it's kind of like that situation and scenario I just described, where if this game does stay close, I envision a big game out of Gobert. But it's
Hmm.
just another reason why I also think that they could just completely run away with this one. It's just they have nobody to contain Gobert. We're going to see the Mitchell versus Drew Holiday matchup, and that does have me worrying about Mitchell a little bit. But
Definitely.
his shot attempts have been off the wall, 20 plus in the past 3 4
Yeah.
games. So there's definitely some tantalizing upside with that, but the fear of Drew Holiday is going to have me limiting him to GPPs only. And on top of that, we have to worry about this game going all 4 quarters. Conley's been playing great, getting priced appropriately though at 7,200 too. So like I said, it's going to be hard for me to have any action in this game for all the factors. But if you wanted to one off Gobert, I don't mind it, but I would recommend probably maybe just going with somebody on the other side as well, and hope that you get all 4 quarters out of both of them.
Well, Stifle Tower will make some of those GPP builds that I'm going with Coach GPP tonight. So we'll see how that goes. Awesome, man. Well, that's it. That's the slate. Hopefully that gives everybody a good idea. It's a little more up to date because, again, we're releasing this morning. This over to Dan at the mothership there, and I'm sure he'll get this dialed up and out there to everybody here pretty quickly. And that'll give you the day to follow the news as I mentioned. At Hoopball Fantasy, at Joe Sarvati, at Mike Apotria, at Language Olympic, and at Miles6565. We'll all be posting stuff throughout the day. Keep an eye on that, and let's win some money tonight, Mike. What do you think?
All right, man. I'm hoping so. I mean, we put the preparation in, and now I got the coffee flowing through my veins, so I'm feeling good.
I'm gonna go make another cup right now, and as this stuff is fresh in my mind, I'm gonna finish up some research, and we'll go from there. So, any final words, buddy?
No, I would say, definitely game script. Fiddle with your lineups a little bit. It does seem like it's more of a GPP type of night, and just have fun, guys. Manage your bankroll so that way, if it doesn't go right, you're not, kicking and screaming and mad at yourself over not playing certain guys. Just have fun. Watch some good games. We got some good basketball on tonight.
Yeah, it may. I am always playing cash rather than GPP. So if I'm even going to go there tonight, maybe it is a GPP night where you can go in at some of the lower cost, so you're not putting as much of your bankroll on the line, and you either cash big or you have an early night. You
That's
can
a
look at it that way.
That's generally the makings of GPPs. I tend not to look at my lineup until at least close to the end of the first game, maybe halfway through the first game, and by then you have an understanding of whether you're going to keep watching or you're done watching.
Absolutely. Well, terrific, man. Make sure you guys tune in. They'll do the show later tonight. Andrew and Miles are on Saturday nights. So they'll be posting that late night tonight, at worst, very first thing in the morning. So catch up with them because I know there's a nice little 6-game slate on Sunday. And then Sunday night, Mr. Apotri and I get to jump back on here with you guys for a Monday slate. So that'll be cool, man.
Looking
All
forward to
right,
it.
dude. Yeah. Let's make some money. Have a great weekend and enjoy it. And we want to thank everybody for joining us for Hoopball NBA DFS today. For my man Mike Apotria and Andrew Hansen, our man Miles, and our man Andrew J. Gallagher, Esquire, I am Coach, and we will catch you again tomorrow as we look to crush it in NBA DFS.
Good luck, guys.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.